Hey guys, welcome to a new movie review. I've been meaning to review this film for a while, so I apologize for those who saw my Facebook post about this movie and have been waiting for a while for this review. I apologize once again. Just didn't get around to reviewing this film until, well, just right now. So my movie review for today is going to be for a film called Z for Zachariah. Unfortunately, it did not play in my area, which is Madison, Wisconsin. I actually had to wait all the way to the Redbox rental to see this movie. But in Z for Zachariah, you guys, this is based off of a book which is basically the same plot as this movie, involving a girl who knows a lot about farming, and she is basically a survivor of an apocalypse. It has wiped out human civilization as we know it, and for a good I would say for a good chunk of the first act of this movie, we really think that she's kind of the only person who has survived this apocalypse. But throughout the course of the film, this is not a spoiler review. In fact, these two characters, along with this character I'm talking about now, are both featured on the poster of this movie and are both shown in the trailer for this movie. This is a non-spoiler review. So she meets these two guys who have somehow survived the apocalypse themselves, and they all start living together. They're trying to figure out how all three of them have survived this apocalypse, and they're trying to recreate stuff. The girl who's played by Margot Robbie, who is also the farm girl, um, she's found places and stores and things that have helpful resources for her to survive all this time. She's found gas stations and grocery stores and churches and places that have food and water and resources she can survive off of. So these two men are living with her and are kind of following her around because they know she has resources. And another question that gets brought up, since she's the only girl and they're the only two men that are alive still, is it really worth it to have children with her to start up society again? So that's the question that's brought up throughout the course of the movie, and it's also brought up when both of these men start falling in love with this girl. So overall, guys, Z for Zachariah was okay. I wasn't completely in love with this movie. I'll be completely honest with you. I was hoping for something more along the line of I Am Legend. That's what the way the trailers were making this film looking like. But I got more so a Nicholas Sparks romance story that just so happened to take place during the post apocalypse. And unfortunately, that's the film that Z for Zachariah ended up becoming. And I wasn't completely thrilled by it, to be honest. So, for my positives and negatives of Z for Zachariah, I thought the questions it brought up about starting up society again were interesting. It definitely asks interesting questions to ourselves about how we would handle things if we were the survivors of this apocalypse, like these three people were. I like how those questions kind of get brought up throughout the movie. They visually get brought up. They're not directly brought up to us as viewers, but they're questions that are brought up visually and through the screenplay to us by the time the movie's over with that I think are interesting things that help us think a little bit even after the movie's done with. This is also a very nicely shot film. This film definitely found good places to shoot environment wise. There's farmlands and making sure that these places looked abandoned and that these places somehow survived this apocalypse and that they're still in good shape and that there's still good resources there. The film does a nice job making sure all those shots get nicely shot. This is also some great looking sets for this movie. They really made it sure it looked like farmland and that it looked like untouched land of this apocalypse, and that um, just great looking sets for this movie. Also, the post-apocalyptic first act really felt pretty cool. In fact, I was hoping that Act Two and Act Three in this movie were going to hold up that same look and same tone. Unfortunately, that post-apocalyptic first act kind of disappears the moment those two men come into the story. Um, and I really wish that it could have followed more of the first act because I really like where the first act was going with this movie. For my negatives of this movie, the character accent, even I was doing a little bit of an accent there. The character accents in this movie were a little bit frustrating. Margot Robbie kind of has the farm girl accent. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's one of the men that she finds, who's also recently in The Martian, he kind of has an accent in this movie that's a little hard to follow. And then Chris Pine really has a real bad farmer accent that he has throughout the course of the film. And there's times you're just like, wait, what did they just say? So kind of little frustrating character accents that happen in this movie between all three of the characters. and it's a little bit frustrating, to be honest. I also thought the film was a little slow paced. In fact, it's very slow paced. It's a very slow paced movie that really could have used a lesson in quicker paces and making its points much quicker than it did. I also didn't like how this movie felt like three movies at once. It felt like a subpar Paul Thomas Anderson film, a Nicholas Sparks novel, and I Am Legend all in the same wrapping and same packaging. And unfortunately, when it tries to be all three of those movies at once, none of them work too well. This is also a film where really not a lot happens. Not a lot happens in this movie. I think maybe two or three big things happen in this movie, and it's really uneventful. This is a very uneventful film, and it could have been eventful, and it's not eventful. So overall, I'm going to give Z for Zachariah a 7 out of 10. I liked all the questions it brought up. It's a nicely shot film. It's a great looking. It has great looking sets for the movie. That first act is really good, but the character accents, the slow pace, being three movies at once, and the fact that really not a lot happens in this movie really wear the film down. It could have been something incredible, and it doesn't really become anything incredible. So 7 out of 10 for me is okay. Maybe if there's really nothing left at Redbox for you to rent, maybe rent this movie. I don't think it's even worth that number one or number two spot for your next choice at Redbox, but it's okay. It's not completely horrible. There's some good things going for it. It's a very flawed movie. So 7 out of 10. It's all right. Skip the movie if you're really not interested. If you're really, really interested, Redbox is not a horrible way to go with this movie.